and welcome to ICE commentary for the US dollar index and currency markets. It's Nick McDonald here, just taking you through the charts for the week ahead. So we've got a real mixed bag again on the dollar index. After starting to show some signs of bullishness, which was backed up by euro dollar, by dollar yen, and by cable, we're now starting to see some real indecision again amongst those currencies, and we're seeing that indecision reflected on the US dollar index. So we're seeing some currencies move and move strongly, but the key mover here is not necessarily the US dollar. For example, we're seeing a strong euro and we're seeing a strong British pound, which is giving us what would look therefore like a weak US dollar, but at the same time we are seeing a very strong US dollar against others like the Japanese yen. So this is continuing to provide this indecision on the charts. Let's have a look at the dollar index and just highlight where this indecision is. Well, starting with the daily chart, while only a little while ago we'd made higher lows and higher highs, just literally weeks ago, and we'd broken up through 81, we're starting to look strong. We then came back below 81, came up and made a lower high from here to here, and have now only ever so slightly but made a lower low as well. So this is now the daily chart at the very least gone back into no trend, because an uptrend should be higher highs and higher lows. Therefore we should have, as I'd expected literally weeks ago, I'd anticipated the price to come back up and break these highs. It didn't. It came up and it made a lower high, and has now come back down and has gone at least to no trend, or depending on, it's only just broken that by a fraction, but when it breaks that convincingly, would certainly consider that to be now a downtrend. So the daily chart now, after looking bullish and looking like bouncing off the bottom of a major long-term range in the monthly chart, is now looking a little bit bearish again. Notice that I say a little bit bearish, not majorly bearish, but it is a little bit bearish again. Now, let's have a look at the weekly chart. Well, this has come up into 81, is in a downtrend. It's made lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. We've come up into 81 now, bearish candle, broken down below 81, tried to come above, rejected, tried to get above last week, rejected 81. It's looking very bearish, looking like coming lower. Looking there on the weekly chart like coming down towards 80 at the very least, where we know there's some quite good support down at 80, potentially even continuing in the long term downtrend down to 79 and beyond. If we look at this on a monthly chart, this is looking a little bit bullish, and the reason this is looking a bit bullish is because we've been down towards the bottom of this range as major support, and we completely rejected that support and bounced. Now, as we have tried to go higher, we're starting to see that a little bit of failure in going higher, but certainly by no means failed yet, and just looking like maybe we're coming back to test the bottom of the range. Remember, this is normal. I actually did point this out recently that we might come back and test it. And I said that in terms of the last few times we've tested it, we hung around here for 5 months, a couple of months here, a couple of months here, even through here. We tested it over 5 or 6 months. So the fact that we're coming back down towards the bottom of that range is completely normal, and that's now starting to look what is the most likely scenario for me. It still may break that range. In the longer term, I've remained bearish the US dollar for a long time and the US dollar index for a long time. But in the short term here, I started to turn bullish as we looked like we'd bounced off the bottom of that range. It looks like now we're going to have a second attempt at the bottom of that range, and this will be not so much the make or break on the next attempt, but certainly it will be interesting now each time we get down to the bottom of that range, because a convincing break of it could mean the US dollar is going a lot lower, US dollar index is going a lot lower. But for now though, we are above it and there is major support there, so we've got to remember we've got 80 coming up, but then really these other levels are not quite so precise, but there's a range between say 79.25 and 79.65. In around that kind of zone, there's a whole lot of support, and we've seen us bounce off that already just last month. So what does that look like on the daily chart? Well, it's starting to look like now we're likely to go lower. I'm looking now for moves down towards 80. I do just want to see a convincing break of this 80.50 level, because there's just a little bit of support in there. Even though we've made slightly lower lows, there's just a bit of support in there. Bounced off it here, bounced off it here, rejected it again here on Friday, just on a short day. So I'd like to see a break of 80.50, but on a break of 80.50, I'm looking for moves to 80. From 80, I'm looking for moves down towards 79. Now let's just have a quick look at where there's conflict on the spot market. So euro dollar was bearish a few weeks ago as we came up above 135 and rejected it, but now what's happened is we've come back, found some support at 135, and we're now back above it. So I do remain bullish on euro dollar as long as it's above 135. That means bearish on the US dollar. That means my view has changed again. We're starting to look like we're moving downward for the time being on the US dollar index. If we have a look at this on cable as well, so this was also looking bearish for a little while. It was looking bearish back here again just weeks ago as it had come up above 1.6 and was rejected and breaking back down below this little bit of support through here that was formed through there. It was breaking down below, but now we've rejected it. And not only that, because we'd also hit the top of this range and we were breaking down through the low of that candle, but we're now just breaking up through the top of that range, and we've got a bit of a clear run here to around about 167 on cable. So we've got a pretty good run, bullish cable, therefore bearish US dollar. So it's the action on the charts here which has changed my view back to being bearish, back to the dollar index looking like it's going lower. There is still though some conflict, and for example that comes from dollar yen. It has done many times. And this is what just creates that indecision on the charts where the US dollar index is not looking absolutely blatantly bearish, because actually the US dollar is bullish in some cases. So for example here on dollar yen, just a very bullish chart. This pattern I pointed out, bullish candle, break up through the high, is already pushing on, already looking strong. US dollar index, US dollar is looking strong there and likely to give a little bit of strength to the US dollar index as well. Worth also just having a quick look at dollar CAD. This is just another example of a chart where it's actually the US dollar which is looking strong, breaking up through previous highs, and actually here just kind of breaking up through quite a bit of resistance through here around, what is that, around 1.05. Been a lot of resistance there in the past, and just breaking up through those highs now. Not convincingly yet, but certainly US dollar is looking more bullish versus the Canadian than it is bearish. So how does this all tie together? Obviously there's indecision. Obviously it's just not clear cut in terms of the direction. Only weeks ago I was bullish on the dollar index. However, I've always claimed, in these still largely range bound markets like we have here on the monthly chart, I'm still just looking for trades around support and resistance levels, and I'm looking for trades in the direction of the short term trend around these major levels with as much backup as I can get from the higher time frame trends. Well, right now therefore that is, the direction is downward. The daily chart has now made a lower high and is verging on making a lower low as well, or maybe marginally already has. Weekly chart is definitely in a downtrend, and while the monthly chart looks like bouncing off support at the moment, it looks like it's going to at least retest that support, which does give us a nice window of opportunity considering we're at 80.65 now. We could trade as low as 79.65 as we get down, or even the lows here 79.25. So there's windows of opportunity to the downside now, and we're looking at this as we move down towards 80, looking for shorting opportunities between where we are now down to 80, and equally on any breaks of 80 in particular, pullbacks into 80, or short on the break of 80, just looking for a run down towards the support that we're formed down around these levels. Hope that helps, ladies and gents. Happy trading, have a fantastic week, and I look forward to speaking to you again on Ice Commentary next week and seeing how the US dollar has performed for us. Happy trading, speak soon.